And welcome to another episode of Choose Your Destiny. And today it is my absolute pleasure and honor to introduce to you a very dear friend, somebody I call a very dear friend, and that is Dr. Hilda. Dr. Hilda, welcome to the show.
Hello, Neff. So I'm so happy to be able to be here with you today. The magic of technology, right?
I love it. Yeah. So I am located on East Coast, you're on West Coast, and hopefully technology is going to play along with us today. Because
Right.
sometimes I struggle with technology, I'll be very honest. And but my hope is that this is going to work. So tell us a little bit about who you are and what is it that you do.
So who I am, I'm a human being. Yay! I I always like to start by telling people where I was born because I was born in the beautiful Caribbean island of Puerto Rico. And what do I do? Since I was a little girl, I wanted to be able to help people. So I ended up going to medical school. And when I got out of medical school and into the real world after doing my residency, I started being sort of frustrated with the fact that we address problems in people by jumping into prescription medications. And growing up in Puerto Rico, I grew up with a sense of integration in the sense that my family knew how to use herbs, knew how to use alternative, and also would use medical help whenever it was needed. But coming into a job in California, it was really frustrating. I mean, it didn't matter what the person had. There had to be the prescription aspect of it. So very organically and logically, I started gravitating to integrating some of my approaches. And when people ask me what I do, I like to give that background in the sense that everybody assumes that a medical doctor, everybody thinks they know what a medical doctor does, but they're filtering that information based on the acute care system and what people call the healthcare system, which is not a healthcare system, it's a disease care system. So what I do is that I help people achieve their health goals. And I do that in a way that it puts the individual in the driver's seat rather than the person falling victim or prey to not knowing what's happening with their body. So I mentor, I empower people, I mentor people, and at the same time, I help them get from point A to point B by helping them achieve their health goals. So what would those be? Like the people that come to me usually have health goals that look something like this, their body's sort of failing them. They don't feel like they're themselves anymore. They're putting on weight. They cannot lose it. Their metabolism is not working. They have brain fog. They have fatigue. Their doctor told them everything is normal, but not everything is normal. Or they already have an autoimmune problem or a disease. Lots of thyroid issues, metabolic issues. That's a very long answer to your simple question. But what I do is bring the body back in order.
I love that. I mean, I love the fact, and I absolutely agree with you. And folks, one of the reasons that I absolutely love what Dr. Hilda does is that it's not just about give me a pill. It's about
Right.
looking at me as a human being and understanding what is happening with me. And it sounds like you are using some of that traditional alternative medicine combined with this, I would call it Western medicine, to really find the best solution for folks that come your way. Would that be an accurate?
Yeah, it's almost like I have three people inside me because I do have the conventional training as a internal medicine medical doctor. I do not work as a primary care doctor. I have been working as a consultant for 15 years now. And the reason for that is because that way I provide a service that goes above and beyond what people perceive as a primary care role. And then I also have training in metabolic medicine, anti-aging medicine, and training in functional medicine. I do hesitate to call myself a functional medicine doctor because here's the reality of the situation for whoever is watching this in the future. They may agree with me, they may disagree with me, but this is my experience. We have such a disconnect that is mind-boggling to me, because we have these conventional people here and that's all they want to do and that's all they believe is the right way of going about helping somebody. Then you have these so-called functional alternative doctors here that this is the way, like forget it, this is the way or the highway, and these people don't talk to each other. So often when a person, even for people, I have a lot of people that come to me that have already seen 5 medical doctors and 5 so-called functional integrative doctors, and they're still not getting better. And there's a lot of reasons for that. One of them being that those people are stuck in their boxes. Mm. And the reality is that for one person, maybe that one person really needs help with some functional alternative interventions and can also benefit from some conventional interventions. So it's a matter of really connecting the dots and doing what's best for each individual, not being stuck in a box. Okay?
Yeah.
I hope that makes sense.
It makes perfect sense. I mean, I like that. It's not, right, like you can have this road or this road. Perhaps there's a way that different roads fit different people for different reasons when it comes to sort of reaching whatever that health is.
Yeah, and the thing is that I am the perfect example of that, Nev. Mm. I don't know if I've shown you my before and after photo, but it's pretty impressive. At 38, I nearly lost my health. I couldn't get out of bed. Mm. I thought I was going to have to stop working. And my colleague's answer was, well, Hilda, probably you need to go on antidepressants. My response was, I know I don't have a deficiency of antidepressants. I have never had that problem. Therefore, it's something else that was not taught to me while I went to my conventional training. And mind you that I already had started studying functional medicine for about, I want to say about 5 years before that. Mm-hmm. So it's very interesting because having gone through that myself and gone through the frustration that the only answer was, okay, here's your prescription, here's your pill. I'm like, well, if this is happening to me, it's happening to thousands of people. And that was when I made my decision to step out of function. Well, first I had to help myself, physician, heal thyself. And funny enough, my name is Hilda, physician, heal thyself.
I love that.
And I had to go through that journey, embrace mentors, embrace people that helped me go out of that. And then as a result of that, then I have gotten the opportunity to help so many other people. But I think that really makes a difference. The fact that it's not so much that I believe on what I do, is that I have gone through the process myself.
I love that. I always enjoy working with mentors and teachers who are actually doing what they're teaching, right? Like there's a different level of knowledge if I read a book. There's a different level of knowledge if I read a book and attend a couple of courses, but it's completely different ball game when I'm actually doing stuff, right? And I know that it works because I am experiencing it. Mm-hmm. And then I'm able then to transfer that knowledge onto others. And so I love that about you, that, you know, you're not just a doc that read something in a book, attended a course, got a degree, and is following this prescription, so to say. Mm-hmm. But it's somebody who said, well, wait a minute. Yes, there's that way. And then there was this problem that I was able to solve for myself. And now how do I transfer my knowledge that I have, my experience that I have onto others. And it sounds like
Mhm.
that's exactly what you have been doing and are still doing to this date.
Mhm. I have, and it has been a very interesting process. Of course, there is always that rule that if you've done something for 10,000 hours, then that's when you take that level of expert. And I have been already working for over 30 years, so it gets to a point where but you know what, Nev? Here's the key, and this is no matter what the industry is. I
Yeah.
really think the key is to remain teachable.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
the reason that I'm still doing it is because I'm always learning. And some of my greatest teachers have been my own clients.
Mm.
Because you have to be, doctors just have these, we get trained to sort of be up here and then the clients here. And that's not true. We're both human beings. Just this person is seeking the service, and we gotta do what is best for each person and learn how to individualize. And for women, for females, this is huge because females' bodies really change after 40 years old, and the way that the system has been created is just to wait until the person has a disease. So if you have prediabetes, you may be told you have prediabetes, but then let's just watch you. If your thyroid is borderline, it's like, well, let's just watch you until you get the disease. If you have autoimmune and you're developing Hashimoto's thyroiditis, usually people go, well, we don't need to worry about that. If you're having chronic gastrointestinal issues and your colonoscopy is negative, you're told, well, you may have just irritable bowel syndrome and there's nothing we can do.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense, and I absolutely agree with you. Um, you have said so many really cool things, and I have hundreds of questions at this point. You know, um, Part of it is that whole disease care system that you mentioned earlier. That there's that wait until something happens, and then we're going to give you this medication to heal you, as opposed to, well, if we know that you might be predisposed to something, are there ways that we can prevent it? It's kind of like, I'm going to take it to something super simple that I think all of us have done, right? Like I'm driving a car and it's a
Mhm.
slippery road, right? There's a high potential that I could get into an accident. Most of us know that we should slow down. If we have that ability to turn the, all-wheel drive on, we do that. We put hazard lights on, we pull to the side if it's really dangerous. But somehow with our health, the concept is, well, just go full speed. And then once you crash,
Right.
EMT will come and scrape you off and take you and put you together.
Right. Right. Or even the other analogy that I use is like you change your oil in your car, you rotate the tires. Sometimes you need a set of brand new tires.
Yeah.
Sometimes you need the transmission to be replaced. Right. And
Yeah.
that would be like, it just happens, wear and tear. But we tend to run our bodies. I always tell people when I do my seminars, your body is the most important home you're ever going to leave. And it's the most important vehicle that you're ever going to drive. But the situation is that in order for people to be proactive, that equates investing. And I know you're the money expert, right?
Yep.
And everybody's used to invest in homes, in vehicles, or spend whatever you want to call it. But when it comes to their health, unless that little card takes care of them, they don't want to do anything. But that card is the sick care card. It's not a healthcare card. We've been convinced to be told it's a healthcare card. So there's an awareness and an education that people have to come to take action.
Yeah.
Because unfortunately, a lot of people have been told, well, there is nothing we can do. We just have to wait until, and of course, everybody's worried about developing, the cancer word. That's when all the alarms go. And that's, I've heard people that say, oh my goodness, my husband was diagnosed with this. I would do whatever I need to do. I would invest whatever I need to invest if they could just cure him. And I'm thinking to myself, why was that not the mentality when it was to investing on staying healthy? Because that card is not going to buy you organic food. That card is not going to get you your gym membership unless you're already a senior, and that's questionable. That card is not going to get you a mentor,
No.
an expert that's going to guide you and help you to get from point A to point B.
No,
It's
I
going to get
absolutely
you
agree with you.
a prescription machine is what that card is going to get
Yeah.
you.
It's, and part of it is, you've mentioned the whole like money and investing and stuff. And most often when I get clients is because they haven't taken care of their money for decades, and they want it fixed today because they've gotten themselves in so much trouble, in so much challenges. I'm like, well, it's going to take time now, and it's going to be very painful to go through it. And I think the same way about health, right? I absolutely agree with you. We have one life, one body. To my knowledge, I know the technology is amazing and is doing all kinds of cool things, but they haven't developed the body that I can take myself out of this and put myself into something different, right? So that ability to look 10, 20, 30, 40 years from now and say, what can I do today to keep myself healthy, to keep myself full of vitality, to keep myself full of energy? Like I used to believe, this is years ago, I used to believe when I was starting to turn 30 and things started to sort of malfunction, if you would, and, squatting was starting to be a bit painful and things are cracking, and, right, you wake up and you're like, oh my gosh, I used to recover so much easier, but things are not so easy. And I used to think, I remember going around and saying, well, that's just normal. I'm aging. But
No.
it's not normal. And I didn't know that until I started talking to, I call them alternative doctors, anybody who's not following that sort of same mentality of we can't do anything until you're completely broken, right? Like until you're sick.
Right.
And they told me that's not normal. Like you being in pain is not normal. I didn't know that.
Right. So true. I mean, I'm so happy to hear that you can firsthand relate to these. And you're a young man. I have a passion for helping business owners, entrepreneurial people, speakers, because those people really understand that the number one asset that they have is themselves.
Yes.
And also because those are people that are out there, the movers and shakers, and they're doing something. So I know that if I can help that person get to their health goals and be functioning with vitality, the things you mentioned, vitality, energy, focus, feeling great about themselves, having their suit fit them properly, I know that that person is going to turn around and then help hundreds of other people.
Yeah.
So I see it as me investing my time into somebody that I know is going to go out and help others. It just gives me tremendous joy to be able to do that.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things when things work, right? Like for me, when something works, and people always ask me, I was recently at some sort of networking event, and I said I've been investing and teaching others for well over 20 years now about money and how to create wealth. And one of the ladies raised her hand, and she's like, "What did you start when you were 2?" And I'm like, "I no." So I asked her. I said, "How old do you think I am?" And she was like, "I don't know, maybe like 22, 25
20.
tops. There's no way you're older than 25." I'm like, "I'm 40."
Oh, yeah,
And
you look so young.
she just fell out of her chair and she was like, "You are lying." I had to pull out my driver's license and like prove my age.
Oh my gosh.
But most of it, right? Like, and part of it, I can say, okay, maybe there's some good genes in me. Okay, right? I will acknowledge that. But it's also that I take my health very seriously. My health is, right? My number one asset is my body. My number one commodity is my time. And I always look at those things. And even as somebody who's an investor, I always want to say, right, I'm not spending money on XYZ. I'm investing money in keeping my body healthy as long as possible. I would love to look 25, 20 years from now. Like that would be fantastic, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so, I know that folks that really take care of themselves, you can see it. You can see it in their energy, in the way they carry themselves, in the way their body looks. Like it's very much visible of what you do. And
Yes.
I don't want to guess your age. I don't want to show your age, but right, like you said, you've been a doctor for 30 years. So most
Yeah.
people know, right? Like med school takes a while, college takes a while, right? So you're not in your 30s, but if I was to see you, right? I mean, I would be like, this woman cannot be older than 35. Like there's no way.
I love you.
I know I'm wrong because of just what you shared, but you don't look at older. You
Oh,
absolutely don't.
oh
And
my
and
gosh.
I think that the way that you care for your body, and I presume you care for your clients in the same way that you care for yourself, it shows on you. It absolutely shows on you. You're always
Oh my
full of
gosh.
energy. You always, right? Like, I mean, I know people who are younger than you and I, that are just, right? Like I call them the young old people, right? Like age
Oh
wise, they're
yeah.
really young.
I say the same thing.
Oh, but then you
I
look at
say
them
the
and they
same.
look like they're 80 years old. They're barely moving.
But when I was 38,
Yeah.
I felt like I was 80.
Hmm.
I literally felt like I was 80.
Now, I have a question because you have mentioned a lot of different things that were health related. And part of my hope is that, maybe we can inspire and help some of the audience. I'm going into a lot of really
Sure.
cool conversations here that people may agree or may disagree. But, I'm curious to know from your perspective as a doctor, somebody who's seen a lot of people's stuff, what are you seeing as like number one or number two things that people are doing that is destroying this vitality, that is destroying this good health?
Really, truly is multifactorial,
Okay.
and but if I had to just isolate one thing, I would isolate the one thing that can affect 70% of your immune system.
Mm.
Because what we are seeing is a lot of young people coming with autoimmune issues. Thyroid autoimmune issues
Yes.
for females are off the roof. And we need a strong immune system to combat disease, right?
Yeah.
And to combat chronic disease. So if I had to say one thing, you asked me what people are doing, but I would say is what people are not doing.
Okay. Fair.
What people are not doing is that they're not taking their gastrointestinal system seriously.
Okay.
And the physicians themselves are contributing to that. I meet people all the time, and I'll just be called things for what they're called, okay, that have had constipation all their life, and they think that that's normal. They think it's normal to eliminate once a week.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Yeah.
Like, how do you even get to that conclusion? I see people that have had chronic problems where they eat and they have to run to the bathroom. Okay. And there is not one fix. I know there's the people that are going to say, well, that's because of the pesticides and that's because of the other thing. There's never one thing. There's always multifactorial. But the one thing that people are not doing is they're not taking their gastrointestinal system serious enough. They only take it serious enough when there's a disease. And the doctors really are truly not trained. Even gastroenterologists, with all due respect, if any of you watch this interview in the future, gastroenterologists have become colonoscopy performer machines.
Mm.
Unless there is something to cut or to remove or to refer somewhere else, there is nothing that's done. So I think the gastrointestinal system, and it starts from being a baby, lots of babies not being breastfed, then lots of antibiotics when the kids are young, any sore throat antibiotics, then there's the stress when you're a teenager, then people start experimenting with alcohol, alcohol. Some of people experiment with drugs. A lot of young people doing competitive sports where the stress is massive. Then people get to their 20s, they're in low budgets, they're going to college, they're eating fast food all the time. Ladies, how many ladies have I met that have had bloating all their life and they thought that was normal? And I was one of them. I grew up having daily abdominal pain, and I thought that was normal. Yeah. So the one thing is gastrointestinal. If I had to say a second one is sleep, not recognizing the importance of sleeping those minimum of 6 hours in a row. The 30s, a great age for pushing, going. Not turning the technology down, shut it down an hour before you have to go to sleep. So those are very, very basic things. And they're not taken seriously.
No, I and thank you for sharing that. I mean, I was in a group where, and I didn't realize that I had some food intolerances and allergies, and I was one of those people that was constipated, and I thought, just like you said, going once to the bathroom was, once a week was normal, right? I know better now, but at that time, because, right, like it was normal because it was happening to me. So, and we don't talk about those things, right? Like I don't know last time that anybody had a conversation with a friend, like, so how often do you go to the bathroom? Like, we don't talk about those things. Those are taboo topics in many ways. And so you don't understand that constant pain, constant constipation, constant bloating, none of those things are normal.
Correct.
Right? They appear normal to us because we've had it all our lives. So we just think that that's how it's supposed to go. And we kind of move on and dismiss it. And one of the things that I love that you have shared about the sleep, and I know you talked about your favorite group of people to work with are speakers, entrepreneurs. And what I have found, and I don't know what your findings are, but what I have found, and a lot of people at seminars and stuff teach this. They teach this, saying, you don't need to sleep. All you need to go out and produce. You're in this age and you need to just push and work the time and work this. And you can work 20 hours a day and you'll be fine. And, my teachings always have been, this is insane. Like, you're building this business, you're building this brand, you're doing all this stuff, but you're killing yourself in the process. So by the time this thing even takes off and it becomes this profitable machine, now, whatever money you made, you're going to have to go and spend on the doctors in the hopes that they can fix. And sometimes things are not fixable and reversible.
So true. Wow, Neff. So true. It's education. At the end, is sitting down, taking the time. Today, I appreciate that we're having this conversation. This was not rehearsed. We're just talking as it goes. And for me, one of the roles that I have taken is to become a vehicle of education. And at the same time, there's a lot. Here's the thing. We have no lack of information. We have Dr. Google, we have Dr. Facebook, we have your friends that think they know everything. So there's no lack of advice and education. What happens now is that there's over information, and then people start using probably techniques that are not for them. Maybe that worked for another person, but that's not what you have to do. And so that individuality, for people to understand that we're 98% the same, but we also have individual needs. And just to give you an example, we are having this conversation and I got to warn people. This is not like, oh, we're having this conversation. She said gastrointestinal, therefore I'm just going to go and purchase the number one cleanse that I find online and that's what's going to solve my problems. In fact, those people actually feel worse because they didn't do the prep work. It's like you would not go and try to plant in a soil that has not been properly conditioned. Yeah. So and then people do that. And that's the other thing, there's the doing it yourself. Like people, I don't know how everybody thinks they're a health expert, really, truly, because you know what you know and you don't know what you don't know. Yeah. And you don't know all that you don't know on top of that. So people just say, okay, well, the doctor didn't help me. I'm frustrated. Therefore, I'm going to buy this book, that book, that book. I saw this person on television. I order that. And they start doing it themselves. And they do it in the wrong order. They don't get to the root cause. That's the other thing. I mean, we could be talking about this for 3 days because getting to root cause on itself is huge. You know, some people are constipated because they are hypothyroid and they don't know it.
Yeah.
And they were told their test was normal, but they're still having low thyroid symptoms. So getting to root cause, so we know how we're going to address the situation.
Yeah. One of the really interesting things when you talk about the different things that people get online, and let's focus on the health. I'm not even going to talk about money and what people put out there as like the only solution. But like when it comes to health, right? Like there's this couple of different things, and we can talk about the diet fads and stuff that they developed that work for some, don't work for some. Some of them are developed for very specific acute conditions that potentially have, but some of them are developed to be a very short term, kind of like, let's get you to normal and then we're going to switch you. But I'm even talking about the supplements, for example, right? The supplements are something. It's not even. I saw the face that you made the
Don't
moment
get
I
me
said
started.
it, which is why I wanted to go there. I wanted to go there because, right, like, and so they're saying, oh, well, vitamin C is really good. Vitamin D3 is really good. You need K vitamin. You need, B vitamins. You need this. You need this. But it's one of those things. It's kind of like you're putting stuff in your body, but you don't know what you need, right? Like it's that's the piece that you were talking about, that individuality. Maybe for me, fish oil is something I need, which I don't. But let's pretend that I do, right? But we wouldn't know that until we run some tests. Am I wrong in saying that?
You are absolutely right. And I have 5 pillars that I work with when I'm working with people. And one of them, when we address the nutrition pillar, everybody has their idea of what that means. So I always say, you got to divide nutrition into 2 areas. There is macronutrients, that's what you put on the plate, and that has to be addressed. And then we have to address micronutrients, and that would be supplementation. And supplementation can end up being a very controversial subject because, again, you have the conventional people that tell their clients, don't take supplements, you don't need supplements. And then you have some people that think that everybody needs everything, right? So how do we consolidate that? How do we put that together? By connecting dots, number 1. Number 2, by testing, because there are ways of testing for micronutrients, but not everybody is educated on the fact that there are ways of testing for micronutrients. And on top of that, not every person that does testing for micronutrients knows how to properly integrate it practically into the person. You follow me?
Yeah.
So I'm a big believer on finding the specific needs of people. And even when you find that there is a need, that person may not even be ready to receive it. There are other things that may need to be done prior. Okay? Let me just give you a couple of examples in here. And these are simple examples that people probably already know. You can have people that are having sugar cravings. They have been told that they're pre-diabetic. They continue to say, I don't know, because I do everything right. I stop my sugars, and their numbers don't change. However, if they have a chromium deficiency, they are going to be pre-diabetic at a cellular level. And that's not going to improve until that gets corrected. But that doesn't mean that people are going to solve it by going to let me not mention stores, okay? I did not say that. So going to stores and just buying supplementation because
stores, yes,
different quality of supplementation on top of that. Yeah. And I can tell you that after working with supplement companies, let me see, I lost track right now, for about 15 years now, 20, actually more like 20. Mm-hmm. Time is just going too fast. I have selected what I believe works best from each company. And now I also happen to have my own private label because I am tired of just, there's too much available. And then at the same time, people end up using what they don't need. I dread when I end up working with a person and the first thing they do is they pull out their gym bag and their gym bag is full of supplement bottles. I much rather work with somebody that is taking nothing or only a few things so we can sort of find out what their body is asking for. So what their body needs is what their body is asking for. Okay, so that was the diabetes example. Another simple example could be, the liver has specific nutrients that it needs. So people that are trying to do all these cleanses, but yet they're not, their tank is, just think about it. It's like the car. Before you put the car in a race, you want to change the oil, fill the tank with gasoline. However, we want to change the oil and fill the tank with gasoline with the right octane for each person. So you're right on. You're right on with your question.
Yeah, and it's, part of the stuff that you were talking about, supplements, I want to kind of go back there really briefly. I have two questions. One, I'm actually interested to hear more about your private brand, so that's really cool. And then the other one is, it is my understanding, and again, it would be kind of nice to get clarification for you, given your experience as well, is that supplement industry is not heavily regulated. And so when they're putting stuff, it's not all same purity, and it's not all optimized in the same proportion that actually makes sense. Is that
correct?
Okay.
Correct. And not only that is, I believe that supplements need to be tested as individual raw materials. As the raw materials are coming, they need to be tested as raw materials, but also they need to be looked at as a whole. There's variability. Probiotics are a great example of that. Probiotics, you can purchase over-the-counter probiotics that really you test them, and they don't have the billions of organisms that the bottle says that they have. And but let me tell you, there are benefits on the fact that it is not regulated too, because that means that people have access to them. I think it would be a real problem if Americans lost access to some things that they can get over the counter. It's just a matter of really knowing. And like for me, again, I see people taking a lot of things over the counter, but they just didn't, they may have hit it 50%, and that's why they don't get 100% better. We gotta be able to hit it. And I'm a big believer of doing things in the right order.
Absolutely, right? Like it's, when I listen to you doing the car analogy of the whole, how we do stuff, and sometimes when we do things on our own, if it's something like a cleanse, we forget to, flush the system properly and change the filter before we put the new oil. So we change the filter, then we put the new oil, then we flush, and then we wonder why it doesn't work, right? Like
exactly. People are like, I don't know, I did it, but it didn't work. And that's, I love what I do. I mean, I don't know if that kind of comes across, but I really, really love what I do with people, because it allows me, in the process of helping them get their goals, it allows me to provide them with empowerment and education. So that way they're not dependent on me or codependent on the sick care system for the rest of their life, where they have gotten the tools and now they feel like they are in charge and they understand their body to take care of it properly. So that's just something I'd love to do.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're passionate about what we're talking about here definitely comes through. But I did have a question about the private label stuff. So I know you have developed your own supplement stuff that I presume you have for your customers and clients.
Right.
And so I'm kind of curious of, that's not necessarily something that is on the open market. It's really, I got to work with Dr. Hilda, who's going to give me education, and then get the stuff, or can just general audience get the stuff?
It's very interesting you're asking me that question, because I'm working on a project right now and I'm hoping that it'll go live in the next 15 days or so.
Okay.
And so that is how it's been traditionally. People work with me one-on-one, and then they have access and I guide them. That's the other thing, that there's certain supplements that people only need maybe for 90 days just to get what they need to get. And then that gets dropped. That doesn't necessarily become a maintenance. So you get the two extremes: people taking too many supplements, and then people not taking enough of what they need. So what we're going to do is we're going to have an online store, and then we'll have the front and the back. So the people that are my clients, that are members in my programs, are going to have access to things that the general public won't have access to. However, then we're going to put on the front for the general public some of the more basic things that I know that people are using anyway. So that way they have the opportunity to get something that that hopefully will work for them better than what they're using.
Okay. All right. Very cool. So then there's a twofer. One is that, as for clients, right, like they already have a plan and they know what they need, they can just go in and grab it. Right. And then general public can go in. There's already going to be taking stuff. So if you're going to take stuff, you might as well take something that is optimized, tested, that we know it works.
Right.
Most likely, I was going to say potentially, but I was going to say most likely better than vast majority of things that are out in the marketplace.
And then the other part of it that I'm committed to is to also have a section on the online that's education, for people to understand. For example, vitamin D. A lot of people are taking vitamin D, and I hear this question more often than not. People go, well, why is it that I'm taking vitamin D and somebody told me to take 10,000 units a day, and my vitamin D levels don't really go up based on what I'm taking? And then we get to the point where we do individualized evaluation and come to find out that that person is vitamin K deficient. Well, if you're vitamin K deficient, you're not going to be able to incorporate your vitamin D.
Yeah.
And so they can continue taking however many thousands of units they're taking, and it's still not going to work. But that doesn't mean that all vitamin Ks are created equal. So, it's like a chess game. There is all these plays that need to happen.
Yeah. It's a lot of moving pieces and parts, and that's the piece that it can get frustrated. And today's day and age, to a degree, I love the whole do-it-yourself piece. But as I said, it's one thing to do it yourself. Tile that you put down that is like that floating tile that you can put on the floor, and it's a completely different ball game when we're talking health, right? When we're talking multiple moving pieces, where you really, I can look in a mirror all I want, but I'm not going to know what's happening inside my body until I do specific blood tests, right? And I guess I could poke myself, although that doesn't sound pleasant at all, right? So I would need to have a professional who, A, can draw the blood, B, knows exactly what tests need to be taken, and then C, read those things, interpret them, and understand, how does this all work for me?
Right. And one of the beautiful things that I am coming to the 21st century with that is that used to prevent a lot of people that maybe live remote from me being able to help them. But assuming a mentorship role and an educational role, I can help people that are not necessarily local, and then direct them in their area to get the proper blood test. Once they have been enrolled in one of my programs, then I can refer them to a local drug station, and then they will get the proper test. And then we can, through the power of technology, be able to help them. So that's, and again, at that moment, I would be assuming the role of a mentor educator. If they need other services, they actually do have to fly in, but it becomes helpful because it allows people to be guided at least in the right direction. But I want to say something you said earlier about do it yourself. I have to tell you, I have some of my clients that I have known for many, many years, and they come back and they tell me stories like, oh my goodness, you won't believe this happened. I was in Hawaii, but wherever I was traveling, and this happened. But because of what I've learned from you, I knew exactly what to do. And I did this and that and that. And then I was able to solve it. So people do get to point where they can, if they are a student, they are good students. I always say I can only help people that bring to the table three things. Willingness. You have to have the willingness to get well. Some people don't want to get well.
Yeah.
You need to want to get well. Desire to be engaged, not just to be sitting there and have somebody, telling you what to do, just be engaged. And teachability, you have to be teachable. Because if you're not teachable, I cannot do it for people. I can lead people on how they can get out of the situation they got themselves into to begin with. And I'm sure it's very similar to what you do for work. So, because of those people that are teachable, those are the people that come back and say, this happened, but I knew exactly what to do. Yeah. And I didn't fall back into the old patterns.
But that falls, right, but I think that comes with the level of proficiency after a time of learning and studying, right?
Yes.
It's just like for me to be able to know some of the stuff about medical, although I will never give medical advice to anybody, right? It's because of the years of sort of training with doctors and inquiring and being incredibly curious and being willing to fire doctors when I'm not satisfied with what they're doing, and going out there and finding doctors that fit me and they're able to do stuff for me and they're able to solve stuff. And, I love the fact that you're using technology to be able to inspire folks, because I'll tell you, right, many people ask, like, where's your doctor? And my doctor is about 4.5 hour driving for me.
Wow.
So, but I found somebody that works, right? And so we can do phone consultations. Sometimes I have to go in, which is fine. Sometimes we can do stuff over the phone. Sometimes it's a matter of labs, very similar to what you're talking about of, we'll talk about, okay, it's time for your labs. You don't have to come in because all I got to do is write a script, go to the local lab. They'll send it. Make sure you give authorization. I get it. I'll read it. We'll jump on a call, talk about stuff. And then if there's something that I need to go in and be seen for, right, like in person, then that's fine. And it blows people's minds. And I'm going, you will travel to go see, Empire State Building because you've never been to New York. You'll go travel to the Disney World. You'll go travel for, this, that, and the other thing. But somehow you will not use technology and talk about not even have to travel to use technology. You'll, use technology to watch silly YouTube videos and waste a lot of time. But for some reason, you won't go with the best doctor you can find because they're not right around the corner.
I'm using that one. I have never thought about that before.
But right, it's crazy if you think about it.
It is true, but I really had not thought, because you're right. Like, people will travel from one end of the country to the next to see the Empire State Building.
Yeah.
I never thought about that before.
Right? But we won't do it for our own health.
Well, you know why, though? Is because humans, as humans, and I know because, we are motivated usually by pain. Like, is the pain that drives somebody to get help. So that's the reason. And everybody has different levels of how much pain they can tolerate.
Yeah, before they do something. Yeah.
So for the most part, now for other people, which is sad, those are the people that have been looking for help and looking for help and looking for help. And they know there's an answer and they're relentless. And I get a lot of those people. The people that have already been looking for help, is just a matter of they haven't found the right person that they can relate with, that they can. And for me, because I have gone through this myself, I know what it is. I know what it is to put on weight like crazy and feel like my body was out of control. I know what it is to not be able to get out of bed. I know what it is to have pains all over. And if I would have gone to a doctor, I would have been diagnosed with fibromyalgia. I know what it is to get out of bed and put my feet on the floor and have it, by the time I take 20 steps to go to the bathroom, I feel like I'm 80 years old. I know what it is to have brain fog and not be able to be at my tip top, thinking I would have to stop. Can you imagine what a tragedy it would have been for me to stop doing the vocation, the work that I have a vocation for? That would be a tragedy. So, I already know what it is for my colleagues to tell me, oh, well, here, take your prescription. Here's your antidepressant. It's frustrating. So I get a lot of those people that have been looking and they know that there is an answer. They just haven't found it yet. Well, and then there's the other people. There's the people that they just don't know what they don't know, and hopefully they'll become educated, and then they'll turn around and they'll find somebody that can help them.
Yeah. Well, awesome. Well, we are slowly but surely coming to the end of the show, and I always ask 2 questions of every guest.
Okay.
For you, I have 3 questions. So you get a bonus question.
One of it is that,
I have enjoyed this conversation tremendously. And like you have mentioned, I mean, I could talk to you for days, but I also want to respect the audience's time and understand that perhaps they don't have 3 days to watch this and listen to it. So I would hope sincerely that at some point in the future, we can get back together, touch on so many other things that, like I said, I have so many questions that I would want to ask you. So I hope that you will consider coming back to the show and sharing more, because this is something that I am incredibly passionate about. And, it's no money in the world can buy health. When you come to the point where it's just too late. And I know that from a personal story that, some people know, some people don't. A couple of years ago, my mom got diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. And by the time we found out, Mom had 6 weeks left to live. And, you know that the parents are aging, they're going to pass, and that's the normal life cycle. But I will tell you, Dr. Hilda, that, I would have given everything, if I could extend that woman's life for 1 more month. All of my money, all of my knowledge, all of my investments, all of my businesses, I would have turned it over gladly, if I could just have 1 more month with Mom paid free. But I can't, right? Like that's one of those things that I can't. And so, I think you have a lot of stuff that, you talk about. So that's where my passion comes in for that health driving thing. And my hope is that by folks listening to this and watching this show, they will be inspired to really start looking and taking action and, connect with you. And if they're not connecting with you this way, then find another doctor to connect with that is passionate about health. I mean, I hope that that's okay that I'm saying that, of like, find somebody to help you and fix things, because what you may think is normal and is okay, it's not. And by the time you find out, it ends up being too late, and no amount of money can save it or fix it. So I hope you will consider coming back and sharing more of your knowledge.
Of course.
So now going into my official 2 questions, and they're very serious questions, so I need you to focus. And one is, what is one book that, has made the biggest impact on your life, or maybe one book that you recommend the most to others?
All right. So I'm going to speak from the heart, and I am going to, because it's a very personal interview, right?
Yep.
I am going to tell you the one book that has made the biggest difference in my life, and that I believe that can make the biggest difference in others. It is the Bible. That is the one book that has made the biggest difference in my life.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, there you go. Super simple and not always simple answer, right?
Right. And it doesn't matter, we have the Hebrew scriptures. I still consider that part of the Bible.
Yeah.
Right. And the what's considered to be the New Testament. So there is a flavor for different people. If somebody wants inspiration, motivation, there is Psalms. So there's an answer for many human problems in that book.
Very cool. I like that answer. All right. The last question is, where can people go to learn more about who you are, what you do, if they're interested in the supplement? So just tell us kind of, what is the way that post this interview, folks are as motivated about health as I am and are saying, I want to learn more about Dr. Hilda. Where can they go?
So is it okay if I give you 3 options?
By all means. Yeah, I think people like more options.
All right. So I have Dr., like doctor, Dr. Hilda, my name, Maldonado.com. And then for the products, we're going to be using Pure Passion Wellness.
Okay.
And then for your audience, I will have an email address that is going to be askdrhilda@gmail.com.
Okay. So for the Ask Dr. Hilda, is it actual spelling of the doctor or DR?
So what I'll do is I'll send it to you.
Okay,
so
perfect.
Because I know you put it.
We will put it in show notes. We'll put it on the site so folks will actually have that.
Right.
So, well, Dr. Hilda, absolute honor, absolute pleasure to have you. And I am beyond excited that you said you will consider coming back to the show. So thank you so much for your time, for your knowledge, and for all that you do for people.
It's truly, truly been my honor to be here today. And it's nice to, for me, really, to hear how you could relate to these subjects so deeply. And happy to know that you look 20 years younger than your age. Oh, I never told you my age, huh?
Me too. Yeah, we will.
Okay, so we'll keep my age for the next time that
There we go. We'll keep it a secret, so you guys are just gonna have to wait for the next episode, and we'll reveal. So maybe we'll play a little game, and you guys can just post what age you think Dr. Hilda is. So there you go. We'll play a game. We'll have fun with this one. So thank you all. If you are seriously considering getting healthier, improving your life, when it comes to health, when it comes to energy, when it comes to vitality, consider visiting Dr. Hilda's website, consider emailing her, and I am certain that she will do a great job taking care of you, providing you answers, and just providing you guidance. So if that's something that you're looking for, and I hope you are, because there's always a way to improve everything, consider visiting Dr. Hilda's websites.